Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Minh, and I'm your co-host with Debbie from NDIS Property Australia. And you listen to the SDA Housing Podcast. Australia explains, highlights, guides, and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Debbie, how are you?
Hello, Minh. I'm good.
Good. We just went to the Disability Expo in Brisbane here. It was a nice little walk around and catch up with everyone down there.
Yeah.
Today's topic is...
How do developers get into SDA?
Okay. And it's relevant because we're getting a lot of inquiries for the last 6 months or so now. Small developers, big developers, just coming to us to ask for advice as to how to begin the whole process of getting into SDA as a market. So your thoughts, Debbie?
Well, yeah, there definitely is a lot of interest from people wanting to get into the space, wanting to develop a small or a larger block of land they've got, or they're looking to do quite a few different developments. Some of them have got, quite a good amount of information. Others know basically nothing, and they're coming to us for advice. So, yeah, we've been doing a lot of this lately. So we sort of have a bit of a handle now on the kind of the timeline of the process they need to really be following.
Mm. We're happy to, do these little half an hour, 45-minute consults for these people, give them a nudge in the right direction, and often we ask the question, Debbie, we always ask, well, why are you doing this? Like, what's the purpose? And more often than not, they often say, we can't make it stack with a normal traditional, little project of 4-pack or 8-pack, 10-pack of apartments. We're looking for other options to move forward. And you know what, Debbie, the word development doesn't have to mean apartments. It could mean subdivision of blocks for 2 houses, could be a little bunch of villas, could be a bunch of houses, a bunch of apartments, could be anything. And the moment you cut dirt and then start turning it over to try to create an SDA project, house or villa or apartments, it's a development. That's why we start.
Right, yeah.
And the process is still the same, Debbie. The fundamental process of starting it is the same. And those topics are what, Debbie?
Probably the very first thing is data research.
Yeah, data.
And then we'd be looking at engaging providers, not necessarily engaging providers, but talking to providers as part of the data research. Then looking at feasibility, looking at the potential
outcomes, yeah.
Well, yeah, the different kinds of development you could do, given the size of your site, given the budget you've got, and what the potential outcomes would be. Then we'd also be looking at the right sort of stakeholders to be engaging, from the designer and architect, the SDA assessor,
town planner,
obviously the builders if you're not building it yourself.
Providers.
And the providers, a really important part. Well, I mean, they're all equally important, but I guess it's knowing where each of these different stakeholders fits into the puzzle and when to start talking to them.
Let me summarize that again, Debbie. The moment you green light your project, you got to tender out to the right builder, tender the builders. So you might talk to 3 different builders, 3 different SDA assessors, 3 different architects, 3 different town planners, 3 different providers, 3 different lenders. Don't forget the lenders, right? And maybe even a project manager if the project is a little bit too big for your liking. So there are 6 or 7 different consultants you need to engage to work with here. Yeah. But that's ultimately the end. We're jumping forward to the end here.
So where do you start?
Yeah. So back to the question: How does one start, Debbie?
Well, I think the best way to explain this is maybe give an example that we've been through a process. So you start by looking at the data. Is it even feasible? Is there demand in the area? What other supply is in the area? If that looks positive, then you need to look at the actual site. What can be developed on it? What is already supply in the area in terms of design type, dwelling type.
So before that begins, Debbie, talk to council or town planner. Is it a house and villa owner, or is it a house, villa, or apartment? So that's a council discussion there.
Mm-hmm. And again, that ties in with what is the demand for dwelling and design types in the area.
Exactly.
So that's all kind of goes hand in hand.
Mm.
And what is your budget? What are you looking at doing? Is it just a subdivision of a block? Is it going to be a set of villas? Is it going to be a manor home or a 4-6-pack apartments? There's so many different options. So a lot of people don't realize this. They'll come to us maybe with the plans that they've already put up, and it's just a house and it's on a big block of land. And I say, well, actually, have you thought about this or this or this? Oh, no, I haven't. So it's really determining the best use of the site given what the data's showing.
And that use of site and the design or end result is with the participants in mind. Because remember, Debbie, we had that young fellow come in about a month ago, the young builder in Scarborough or Clontarf, whatever it is, in Redcliffe area. He owns a site, but he lives in, he wants to subdivide to build the back and maximize his yield. But being a young builder, he didn't understand. He was trying to squeeze such a small little villa design as HPSs on it, and he didn't understand the whole concept of think of the participant in mind and tenant in mind to begin with.
Yeah.
To design correctly, it was very, very small, and that I see Debbie, is these people coming along to, but his design here it is, but it's so small though, and that's where they go wrong, Debbie.
That's right.
Yeah.
So some people do already have designs in mind, and they've already maybe paid an architect to come up with something. But I think you really need to get a grip on what the demand in the area is first. Another example is someone that we've been working with for quite a few months now, back and forth with different concepts and ideas. And it turns out that in the particular location, there is a massive undersupply for robust. We have now connected this developer with providers on the ground, both SIL and SDA providers, who are going to be working with them on creating the actual design to build for them. But it took quite a while for us to get to the point where we said, well, look, the robust is the way to go. But what kind of robust? Duplex, villas. So that's sort of the next step in the process. So it really comes down to so much talking to the different providers on the ground, if you can do that, to find out what the demand is and what is going to be the most feasible option.
Debbie, I'm recalling as you're talking there, 2 interactions with people in the last 3 months, you and I have. One of them has come aboard as a client of ours, and he spent $300,000, almost $300,000 in costs, consultants, costs, and a bit of site works. Another guy who we spoke to, he's not engaged us obviously, but he spent $300,000 as well, right? And going into the whole process of trying to do it and thinking about it, and they don't realize they've made mistakes, a little design work or the wrong concept. And it's unfortunate that we get dragged into later on. But if it was done to begin with, they could have saved a lot of money in planning works.
Because you really need to know what you're planning for before you start doing the planning.
Yeah,
and it's not hard. You just got to have the right people to help you find out that information or understand that information.
Look, and all due respect to town planners and architects, look, they're good at what they do. However, I always ask the question, have you ever done an SDA design before? And the answer is no, but hang on, if you've never done one, but I'm sure you're a good architect, but if you've never done one before or portfolio, then how do you know what a person in a wheelchair or psychosocial disability, how do you know what they need to be designing correctly? Because, and I'll give you an example here, Debbie, and all our listeners, example only, robust homes. Do you or don't you need a breakout room? Do you or don't you need a safety room for the carer or an exit path outside the bedroom to run away? These are little things, the nuances of design that people don't realize. Even for mental health, having an OOA bedroom is one thing. Having an OOA bedroom plus an office space separate to that, it also is important. So, these little things for design are very applicable.
Really important. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that someone looking at getting into this space will say, well, here's the design guidelines. We just need to design to this. And an architect who's never done this, we just need to design to this. And we know after 8 years of SDA design that the earlier designs that were just done to meet the requirements are nowhere near good enough. The people who are doing this now know what works and know what best practice is. And that's what you need, is to be engaging someone who understands best practice.
Yeah, and speaking of which, if you are looking around Australia for SDA, talk to an assessor first. Bruce Bromley from SDA Consulting in Melbourne, he is one of the original people really involved in the design work and understands robust dwelling and design work very, very clearly. So again, just talk to the right people. Talk to people who can guide you on the way. And back to the whole topic here, which is how do you get into the whole process? What's your budget? What's your reason? Who are your consultants around to engage? Town planner, assessor, designer, providers. Who are they? Are they giving the right information? The data behind it. So as we kept talking about the last few months, there'll be DDD, which means?
Data, design and desirability.
Please rehash on those three topics again, please.
The data, you've got to make sure that it's not an oversupplied area. Look at the future potential supply, see what the demand is, and not just the number of participants, but also what their category funding is, what the supply on the ground is in terms of houses, villas, apartments, and what category they are, to see where those gaps are. Design, best practice design, making sure that it is going to be future-proofed, it is going to be attractive to not only the tenants who you're hoping to attract in there, but also the providers who are going to be working in that place. And then desirability, which is, of course, good design, but also the location is desirable, that it is close to amenities, it is close to shops and transport and health hubs. So those three things are just so important. If you get all of those right, you'll be onto something pretty good.
I want to throw a curveball at your little discussion there, Debbie, and the word is OT. Okay, the OT. You might have a compliant design by an architect. You may have endorsement by a civil provider with their participants who love this location and this design. However, if the OT does not give approval in their view of that design being perfect
for their clients,
who are working with that civil provider, then that's all for nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the curveball right there. Just because you have a provider doesn't mean it's all good. It must satisfy the NDS compliance, the assessor, the provider, the support coordinator, the participant, and the OT as well. Yes.
Yeah. So, gosh, how do you bring all of that together? If you have a good team that you connect with, they will do that. As this example that we had a meeting yesterday, and the provider is actually going to bring on board some OTs to start looking at the best demand in the area for what kind of robust and how to actually design it properly.
The ultimate transition is participants in hospital over to a SDA, right, Debbie? If they're funded in hospitals waiting to move out and the whole team finds in SDA, but the OT, occupational therapist, does not approve of the dwelling, denied. They won't let them go out to move into that new dwelling. So the OT, they have sometimes the final say in the acceptance of this the SDA. Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to get a really good design up front. The better the design, the more likely an OT is going to be to say, yeah, this is great, this will work. But again, and this is the curveball you're talking about, Min, it's every tenant is different and will have different needs and requirements.
Yeah.
So even if you do build it to the guidelines, so it's going to be compliant, and you create all the possible best design features, future-proof it, it might still not be right for some particular participants. So yeah, that's why this is such a tricky space to get right. Look, so.
And Debbie, you and I first put our hands up that we don't know and understand robust ourselves.
Wow.
That we're not in this space of care, nor are we in design. But people like Bruce Bromley and other assessors around Australia, they do know the kind of stuff. So get involved with the right people who have a good reputation, who can give guidance, and who writes papers and documents and blogs on these certain topics, who show their expertise. And we only know so much. We're very good at data. That's what we do, and we are good at collaborating with projects and the developers and whatnot. But you just need to have the right team of consultants around you as a developer, right, to get all your ducks ducks lined up, everything's all, and everyone's happy to work together, and then you before you do a project there.
Yeah. So, and this information is not an expensive part of the process. So do this initial due diligence first before you start spending those hundreds of thousands of dollars on design work and town planning and DAs and whatnot. So, yeah, you want to get into it? Just start finding the right advisors early on.
But another curveball, which we've mentioned in the past podcasts as well, is the change of circumstances as well, Debbie. So expectations. So project managing and delivery of this project, construction, time frame, sourcing participants, marketing, advertising, taking on still participants, change of circumstances, S48, S100s. The understanding and knowledge has to be there for you as the investor developer to understand that it takes time to get 1 or 2 tenants in. You got to understand the whole process of the NDIS's appeals process, applying for funding and change of circumstances and time frame. So that's how important it is as well, Debbie.
Absolutely. So, yeah, advice and understanding. Learn as much as you can, whether you are an investor or a developer, because essentially you really do need that background understanding. Otherwise, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
So again, another, not curveball, another additional curveball is if the provider says, yeah, I've got lots of participants in the area, they've applied for SDA, still waiting, so it takes time. Support coordinators, they're the ones who go into bat for participants for change of circumstances right there, Debbie. So does the provider who you've engaged to work with to source participants, are they a SIL or an SDA? Do they have support coordinators in the background to help out with change of circumstances as well? Back to the whole, do you have funding buffer? If it's built, can you handle 6 to 9 months worth of a vacancy here? Because what's the time frame, Debbie, for vacancy and occupancy?
Average across Australia, 6 to 9 months.
Is that for the whole house or one?
That's for one. So, yeah, look, there's a lot to consider there. But of course, we know it's worthwhile, and we know that demand is still there in ever shrinking areas. But it's got to be done right. Otherwise, you're not going to have a successful development.
So true. And I want to give some advice to those listening here who are wannabe developers, newbie developers. If you say to us, I've already got a provider already, my question would be to you, Mr. Developer, have you looked at their background? How long have they been an SDA provider for? How many do they have on their books? And then if they say, I've got, 100 SDA properties on my books. Okay, great. How many are filled up? At least 1/3. Okay, of the 1/3 houses. What's the average tenant per dwelling? 1. Okay, so your 4-bedroom houses, which are 3 tenants and 1 OOA, only have 1 each. What does that tell me as a incoming developer to produce this product? Concern about delayed timeframes of tenancy matching as well, Debbie. That's another topic we hasn't been covered either. The whole provider side, procurement, marketing, bringing that in to get the right funding, the right tenancy mix yields plus tenancy matching, appeals process with NDIS, that is very complicated as well. And again, talk to your provider, talk to your support coordinator or whatnot, and understand that process, because if you don't understand that process, you may be in a bit of a jam in 2 years down the track when the property is still, vacant. I mean, we met Steve this morning. We won't mention his full name, obviously, but Steve said, some of these apartments in Sydney are half filled 2 years later, only half.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of turnover of tenancies.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that in some areas where there is a lot of stock, particularly maybe in parts of Sydney, we know this is happening, is poaching of tenants into other properties. And that is a whole other, can of worms we could be opening there. But there's a lot going on in the industry that makes it difficult.
When providers are poaching participants and tenants from other SDA apartments, that's just really not good. And we can't do anything about it. One day they're there, the next day they're gone. Because they have choice of control, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, it's a difficult space.
If you don't know what you're doing, or the space location you're in is a thin market or an oversupplied market or whatnot, that's why you want to stick to the good, not volume, the good abundance or population of participants in an area that could sustain the turnover of participants if it happens to your dwelling. That's all. Anything else, Debbie, of advice to these incoming developers who are trying to understand?
Well, I guess we didn't touch on things like, if you are a developer, what are you looking to get as the ultimate outcome here? Are you looking to sell it at the end? Are you looking to sell it off the plan? Are you looking to get off the plan sales to fund it? So, having a real understanding of how those concepts work in the SDA space as well, which is going to be different to regular real estate development.
So exit strategy, if at all.
Yeah, an exit strategy. That's right.
Cool. I think we've given enough food for thought for anyone listening who is thinking about doing development, small or big, in SDA, and happy to talk further if you want to talk to us on a confidential basis. If they want to reach out to us, Debbie, how does...
You can email us info@ndis.property, or you can call us on 1300 254 397.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.